Hi guys, it's Sufaro back again with the podcast, and today I'm joined by Farai.
Hey Rufaro, how's it? Good to be back, hey?
Yeah, it is. And today it's actually super good because we have Tawanda, and Tawanda, I think, is pretty much our Zimbabwean drone expert. I think that's like the best way to put it, right?
Yeah, at this point,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting title. Thank you. Thanks, Rufaro. Nice to be here. Thanks, Rufaro. And Farai. Thanks.
So yeah, today
No,
we're
thanks
gonna
for
be
giving us your time.
today we're gonna be talking about drones and drone technology in specific. Because there's a lot that's going on with drones. There's the regulation, there's the racing, there's all kind of stuff. But today we're going to be focusing on education. So to start off, I guess we kind of want to understand what's even going on in terms of drones in Zimbabwe. Do we have any? And do we have any pilots, or what's the state of drones in Zimbabwe, Tom?
Well, thanks for that question, Rufaro. And I'll try to make it as simple as possible, just in explaining where we're at as a country. The regulations, as you probably know and everyone kind of knows now, the regulations regarding how drones are operated in Zimbabwe were published in December 2018. And this is after a lot of the people who are involved in the industry, so like operators and pilots and that kind of thing, and people who own drones, were really pushing our government to say, we need to catch up with what other countries are doing. So, after consultative kind of meetings with the ministry involved, which is Ministry of Transport, and people involved there, the regulations were published. Now, what's happened since the time that regulations were published in December 2018 up to now, we're in 2020, is that there has been little implementation on the ground of those regulations. So what that means in essence, and I'll just give you an example, is, for example, the law actually says, the law requires in Zimbabwe that anyone who's operating a drone for commercial or for hire or for reward purposes, right? Or an industrial grade drone. So we're not talking about racing drones or toy drones that people buy for their kids. We're talking about drones used for business, for work. So you're looking at a Mavic Pro, Phantom 4, all those going up, right? All of those, if you're going to operate that, you actually need to have a license. Okay, that's one thing, a license, a drone pilot license or a remote piloted aircraft license, a Zimbabwean one, right?
Yeah.
Or just a license in general to operate that. Okay, to get a license, the law also says you need to have been trained by an approved training organization. Okay, so what that means is you can't go online and do some course and then come back and say, I'm a pilot, and here's some certificate that you did on some e-course or something like that. You actually have to get trained by an approved training company, right? And you can't do a self-training, I Googled it, or I taught myself. There's none of that, right? The law says you need to go to a school. So that law has been there since December 2018. And right now, if you or me want to go to civil aviation, who regulate the law, right? We can't go, you can't get a license because there is no approved training organization. There's none in Zimbabwe at this stage. Therefore, no one can get a license. Okay. So the issues around that have to do with the capacity of the civil aviation. They're still yet to set up a department that looks specifically just at drones. Right now, their current team is, they're doing their job, but they're also doing, the drone part. So there aren't people who are dedicated to looking at drones, which is slowing down implementation. Then there are also other issues to do with safety and who owns the air. There's the military as well, who have a say in what happens in the air. So until they're also comfortable with the regulations and with trusting people to be able to do the things, that once they're licensed, they will operate safely, then we're kind of at a place where the law, we push for it, but now it's made it illegal to do anything. Okay. With that being said, you'll know that when we had that the Shoko Festival, the civil aviation came out and said there's what they call an alternative means of compliance. So basically, if you got a job where we do use drones, and drones are being used in Zimbabwe every single day, even despite the fact that there's no law. I mean, the law hasn't been implemented. right? You can go to civil aviation and ask for special permission on a project by project basis. There's no flat out, hey, you can go do whatever you want. It's, hey, I want to go fly here to do this, whether it's on a mine, whether it's on a farm, whether it's on inspections, whatever it is. You can go and ask for permission. They will look at it on an individual basis and then make a recommendation to say, yes, you can proceed or not.
Okay, so maybe just to interrupt you a bit, are people actually doing that? Let's say I use drones for videography and I want to take footage of a wedding. Do people go and get that request? Or maybe I do that land mapping thing where I want to map a farm. Do people actually go to the civil aviation and they request for that? Or now it's at a place where people just go with the drone to the farm and assume that no one's going to see them anyway and go ahead and do the mapping?
So what's happening, and I like to call it the wild, wild west. That's what Zimbabwe is. It's an unregulated market. People have actually continued to operate as if there's no law because there's no implementation. So that's generally people have just continued to do what they were doing, the way they were operating before the regulations were published, right? So people, you mentioned the guys who do weddings. I don't know anyone who's doing weddings who's going and get, permission before they fly, before they actually do.
Yeah, because it feels like once you do that and then you get a no, now that's kind of tricky. You might as well just do it and not.
Yeah, okay. And the process like civil aviation, and that's where like my company, what I'm doing comes in and tries to help is there isn't enough information coming from civil aviation and from just dissecting and breaking down the regulations so that people understand. So for example, if you have a wedding that you're shooting on Saturday, you can't go to civil aviation on Friday and then expect to get permission.
No, because it takes long.
You fly the next day. Yeah, so the process takes a bit of time. So for you to do that, and then you're still trying to organize for the actual wedding itself, it becomes like it's a hassle. It's like it's too much. So they need to find a way to simplify it, and that's where it's a problem. But I will say this: there are a few people who are doing it. So you mentioned the land surveying or mapping. When that involves, for example, like a land development, okay, something that has to do with maybe City of Harare, or that involves those kind of people. And it's at a high level where you're doing large pieces of land. Yes, there are people going and seeking the permission, and whether they get approved or denied, it depends on a number of factors, of which I'm not privy to that information of what criteria they use to say yes and say no. You know what I mean?
And I guess that would also be us going down a rabbit hole when we're saying we really want to focus on education.
Yeah. So if we were to assume that everything's okay in Zimbabwe, the regulation is there, the laws are being implemented, and we have the training facilities, I still have the question, why would I learn about drones? I mean, we touched briefly in passing on one of the applications, like either weddings, because I remember last year I was at my brother's graduation in Blawayo, Kunast, and we saw a drone, and a lot of people were like, what's the thing? Why is it here? Because it's like, it's making a lot of noise and you're wondering, what's this? But outside of videography and the mapping thing, why would someone want to learn about drones or even learn how to fly one?
Okay, well, that's a great question, Rafaro, and I'm gonna try to make it as short as possible. Drones, the drone itself is a tool, okay, but the industry that it falls under is called the drone technology industry, and I say industry because one of the things we try to do is to educate people around seeing it as an industry, not just seeing it as a tool. So when we're looking at education, we're also trying to help people to see that you can actually have a career within the drone technology industry, okay? And drones are being used in a number of different sectors across the board. So agriculture, we're an agro-based economy and agro-based nation, where drones have been helping in agriculture. And this is happening here in Zimbabwe through some of the work we're doing and some other people that we know are doing stuff. There's what we call agricultural spraying drones. Okay, these are drones that are designed to spray pesticide, insecticide on a number of different crops: tobacco, maize, horticultural kind of grains and all that kind of stuff, right? And these drones are bringing efficiency to the farming practice. So maybe you've heard of smart farming. Drones play a part in that whole evolution of farming and making it smarter. Okay. One of the demos we've done with an agricultural spraying drone that we have is we did a demo with some farmers, and we've actually found that we're able to do 10 times the amount of work that they're able to do with their casual laborers who go around with those knapsacks, right? So we're able to do 10 times the amount of work in the same amount of time. So just typically, for example, our spraying drone can cover 7 hectares an hour spraying, and it needs 1 operator. Whereas the traditional means of spraying on smaller farms, they're hiring about 8 to 10 casual laborers. They have to feed them. They have to give them all these knapsacks. They have to give them masks and all this kind of stuff. And they're covering maybe 1 hectare an hour. You see what I'm saying? So it's those kind of efficiencies and those numbers where we're like, if we did that, it would actually help boost our food security. You see, and that's one type of drone within agriculture. There's another type of drone within the agricultural industry and sector itself, which does mapping, right? Which you use to map your farm and your crops. And then you can do what are called crop and plant health assessments. So assessing whether your crop has enough of the right nutrients, have there enough fertilizer, whether the land that your farm that you're on is too slanted, or you know what I mean, that kind of thing, or it's too rocky. You can use a drone to get that kind of information, and that's data that you're gathering. Okay, so those are things that I've mentioned just within agriculture. So around the world, there are pilots, there are companies that look just at drones in agriculture. They don't do anything else. They just focus on agricultural types of drones and providing agricultural services with drones. You see, and it's not just pilots. Everyone just focuses on the pilot, but you can be, and this is a job, you can actually build a career out of this. We need more like data scientists. A data scientist or data analyst would then come on board and would be the person who would then interpret the data and information when the drone goes and captures photos of the crops and that kind of thing, right? You then process that information and it produces reports, which the farmer can then use to make decisions, you see. So precision farming, smart farming, all of that is coming from perspective of using drones to gather key information that helps us to make better decisions.
And I'm also getting a hint of the more we use drones, maybe we're creating jobs in the sense that there's going to be people who need to create these drones, or like factories.
Exactly. So right now, the world over, in Zim, for example, 100% of the drones.
Sorry, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say in Zimbabwe, 100% of the drones in Zimbabwe are imported. 100%. There's no one manufacturing drones here, right? And according to CAS, unofficially, I don't know what the numbers
are. Sorry, I lost you there.
On the other hand,
me as well.
There's
out a bit.
Sorry?
We lost you for a while there.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I was saying the numbers from what CAS have said, an unofficial figure though, is that there's over 3,000 drones in Zimbabwe that have come through their doors, okay, that have come to the borders and they've been, that they know of, right?
That have been declared.
The actual number though, in reality, is probably double that or triple that, okay? And 100% of those drones are imported, okay? So no one is manufacturing, building, assembling drones in Zimbabwe yet. In South Africa, there's about 3 or 4 companies that already now have got finished products where they've built their own drones from scratch and they're now selling them, that kind of thing. So hence why I'm saying industry, because there's room for people who want to fly the drones, which is what's common, the pilot. There's room for people who build drones. There's room for people who do repairs and maintenance. In South Africa alone right now, there's at least 7 companies that you can go to that do strictly repairs and maintenance. They don't sell the drones, they don't fly the drones, they only repair. And that's your whole business, repairs. You see what I mean? So the future is in that, in people who are able to design them, people who are able to build them, people who are able to manufacture, assemble them, people who then fly them, people who interpret the data that we gather from drones. All of these are different jobs that are waiting to be created and developed here in this country.
Yeah, and people who program them, let's not forget.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Let's not forget programmers and people who do coding and software. And even software, because software is a big thing with drones. Yeah. So guys who make software, you know, for drones and stuff, guys who make accessories, all that kind of stuff, it's all there. And I've only touched on agriculture. What about mining? What about drones for construction? What about drones for conservation purposes? What about drones that look at environmental impacts and that kind of thing? Everyone's crying about climate change and all that kind of stuff. We can use drones to actually monitor the effects and the impact of climate change in different regions. We tried to even use drones for, you know, Cyclone Idai last year. When the Cyclone Idai hit, we wanted to use drones for search and rescue. And we tried. We had mobilized a team of guys, you know, guys, about 20 or so guys who had their own drones who wanted to go out and help with search and rescue. Those are some of the use cases. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because of, you know, a lack of understanding from the military, from the government, etc. You know, and there was a sense of, I think it was more fear and lack of understanding or trust that we know what we're doing, first of all, and the purpose of what we were trying to achieve. You know, but it's those kind of things where we need we as a country, we need to get involved more and more in this space.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very important thing to realize. Like, I might be backtracking a bit, but the issue of drones, they're not just about you being the pilot or flying. There's so much more to drones. There's so many opportunities, career-wise, for you to go into other than flying. It's like, wow. To me, I think for the most part, I've always been seeing either you're a pilot, if you're not, there's nothing else that you can do. But I was like, no, there's so much more that you can do with drones.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe one thing before we move on, I know we're really interested more in terms of the education, but there's one thing you mentioned that kind of piqued my interest. You gave an example where you're saying you guys were able to do 7 hectares with like one drone. Maybe what are your thoughts when it comes to the loss of jobs? Like, is it a balancing act where we're losing jobs and introducing new ones, or people are going to lose jobs initially and then regain them a while later? What's your take on that? Because you were saying they need maybe 10 guys with knapsacks. This one drone does the same area. So maybe this person is going to get the drone, and these 10 guys, well, maybe they don't lose their job, but they're getting paid less because they're doing less. How does that look in your eyes?
Okay, that's a good question, and I think part of that is depending on the industry that we're involved in, the sector, that we're involved in, whether it's agriculture or mining or anything like that. So you've got to look at it from a perspective of like the industrial revolution, the 4th industrial revolution, which keeps being talked about and mentioned, right? In that, the change that's going to happen is that the jobs that we're doing today, which means it requires us as people across the board. Right,
we lost you a bit again.
We lost you at the jobs we're doing today, something along those lines.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Now we can. Now we can hear you.
Oh, it went blank.
Yeah, you were saying the jobs being done today, something along those lines.
Yeah. I was saying with the advent of the 4th industrial revolution, which keeps being talked about and being hyped about, right? What that's really gonna mean is that the jobs being done today are not going to continue being done in the same manner. Okay? Jobs need to be done faster and more efficiently. It doesn't mean you lose your job. If you lose your job, if you try and stick to the old way, okay? What needs to happen is, as people, we need to adapt and try and now get higher skilled types of jobs, or jobs that require more skills. Because you mentioned the farming aspect, right? Farming, for someone to go around with a knapsack, you don't need any training necessarily You know what I mean? Or any actual skill to go and do
Well,
that.
it's basically well, I don't know if I'm
Do you see
minimizing
what I
it.
mean?
It's basically here's the
Yeah,
knapsack.
exactly.
Do your
Here's an
thing.
upside, do this, and don't do that. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we can't really call that a job if we're going to be fair. Okay?
yeah,
It's not
and you
some.
wouldn't want anyone to do that, you know. You
Yeah,
wouldn't want
and you don't
anyone
want
to
to
do
do
that,
that.
to be
You don't want to
honest.
do that for 20 years. You know what I mean? It's not a
Yeah.
career that you're going into. You see what I mean? But now what we can say is the same people that we're going to use to maybe hire for knapsack to do the knapsack kind of thing, right? They
Yeah,
can now do other jobs that require more skill. You see what I'm saying? All right.
yeah,
So they're not losing jobs. We're now saying, okay, instead of doing this, do that. And that may involve teaching them skills that relate to maintaining the drones or other smart farming practices that aren't even related to drones. You see what I'm saying? So it's more
yeah.
of
Fair enough.
retooling, reskilling, upskilling than just saying X, no more jobs for you. You see what I mean? And
Yeah,
across the
I hear
board,
you.
for example, and I'll give you an example in the mining side, in the mining sector, the mining guys, especially these people who do surveying, people who do surveying have been seeing flames, and this is from like, I mean, if I let's just say within the SADC region, let's just say that within Zimbabwe and South Africa, right?
Yeah,
Because drones have come and they have disrupted this, you know, this skill that they got as surveyors to be able to do this, and they used to charge so much money to do it and all this kind of stuff. Now a person can buy a Phantom 4 today, go online, see how this thing works, go and start offering the service for less the price, faster, more efficient. And the land surveyors now need to completely change their game and say, you know what, what's our value add here? It can't just be
yeah,
surveying anymore, you see.
yeah.
So it's about upskilling, reskilling. They're not going to lose their jobs. They only lose their jobs if they stand still and don't evolve. That's how you lose a job.
Yeah,
Mm.
fair enough, fair enough.
Makes sense, actually. I think that's how it is with most disruptions. Either you evolve and adapt, or yeah, the worst happens to you.
Yeah,
So back to education. So there are a lot of careers that you can get into with drones, and I know you've done some work with some schools. How has been the outlook from the next generation, the students? Are they excited about drones, or it's like, this is just another thing that has no future, or they see it as like, there are those toy drones, and you're like, okay, you're just flying a toy. Well, there's nothing more to it.
Yeah.
yeah, and maybe I would add on to the Pharaoh's question by saying, is it one of those things they look at in oh man, another subject in that kind of view, or they're really like enjoying it? What's your experience with the schools you've been to? I remember you said it was Falcon and Hillcrest, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So amongst the schools that we've been working with, we're actually getting into Falcon, Hillcrest, and that kind of thing. They've invited us numerous times. I think we did a drone display at Hillcrest about a year or two ago. And Falcon is trying to get us to then build up a program for them, I think, which we should be rolling out this term. But where we've actually seen and interacted with students, we did an event, I think 2017. That's when we started doing it, and then starting to build a relationship with schools like Churchill, Roosevelt, I think was one of the other schools that were there. And what we basically did is that we were showing them, and we've been showing them, okay, about the different use cases for drones. Okay, the process is just like with education: is you've got to start somewhere and lead people to a certain point, and be able to lead them with, okay, cool, what am I supposed to do with this information? Okay, so we're actually in the process of building out an education program which kids can now proudly actually be able to speak to their parents about and say, look, I'm actually considering a career in this. Okay, but initially what it started off as has been drone awareness kind of experiences where we actually go into the school and then we're like, hey, we showcase our drones, we come with racing drones, we come with professional drones, then we give a talk, we allow them to interact with the drones themselves. And then what we're trying to encourage now is to say, you guys can actually build your own, okay? And the program we're building out now is to be able to take these modular type of drones and actually start building the drones with the students. So the interest, kids are excited. The moment you bring a drone, I mean, I'm yet to see kids that are like not interested in drones. You see what I mean? But we want to move them from a point of, oh, this is cool, right? We wanted to move from being cool to being able to see themselves being involved in the industry or contributing to the industry in some way, long term, in the future, or as a career, in one way, one form or another. So the education starts by saying a drone is not just a toy, okay? A drone is a tool, and drones fit within the drone technology industry, which is what we've been doing. And I think for us, where education plays a big part, and I think what our heart has really been about, is that our education system right now is not preparing people. We talk about fourth industrial revolution. We're not being prepared to be able to do the things necessary to be relevant and to have impact and to be involved in the fourth industrial revolution through our education system. Our education system is evolving, but not fast enough. Hence why we're coming in and saying, you know what, let's come alongside and support. Drones actually fit so well as a subject that could be taught under the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths kind of band and kind of stream, okay? Why it fits so well is when you look at a drone, and this is where I love to show people that racing drones are more than just racing drones, because a racing drone is one that has a certain type of frame, and most of them, in fact 90% of them, are one that you build yourself, okay, and you program it yourself. All right, so when you take that and you actually bring in the components, all right, you can actually teach someone to build their own, and the principles are the same. You know, once you learn how to put motors together and what they are, and the electronic speed control, all that kind of stuff, once you learn how to do it at that level with a racing drone and actually be able to get it together, program it, and get it in the air, it opens up your mindset from a perspective of just being able to fly something cool. No, it's something that you've actually built yourself. Then you can translate it to say, how can we solve local problems using this technology? You see around the world, people talk about drone deliveries. It's like there's a race to see who can set up the best system quickest, you know what I mean?
The most efficient,
Yeah, it's a race. And big companies are really like putting so much money into it. And we're like, okay, what we could do 5 years from now is adopt someone's technology and how they've done it, or do it ourselves. The principles are there. The basic is a basic drone. Build it. Then you can experiment with carrying different loads and all sorts of things and distances, and how do you program it to do an autonomous flight and all that kind of stuff. But once you teach the basics, you've piqued people's interest enough and then equip them with a skill. You see what I mean, right? Beyond just flying. And that's what
so you said something. Sorry, I just cut you off there. But you said something pretty interesting. You said, and something I agree with entirely. You said the fourth industrial revolution is coming, and we're not equipping people with skills fast enough. And it reminded me of a conversation we were having with Rufaro in preparation for this podcast, where we were saying there seems to be an imbalance when it comes to these new age skills, where only the group A schools usually have access to, like drone programs, where you say you're building out one for a school, it's a group A school. How do you think we can solve the problem where we have that at, the low income schools as well? What's your take there? Because we were really stressed out about that.
We are still stressed about it
right now, but yeah.
I mean,
how can he get the guy in the low income school to also see that these amazing things happening?
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that. Is that earlier today, I had a meeting with one of our partners, South African partners. So we're setting up in South Africa as well, and one of the discussions we're having is about education. Is about how can we build out the curriculum we're developing and get it to the mass school market, rather than focus on the niche, which are the private schools who can afford, to pay for their children to get this extra, kind of edge type of thing.
Yeah.
And one of the things we realized and we saw, and we're like, you know what? The moment you put a price tag to it and expect the student or the parent to pay for it, right? You've already cut out 90%
Mhm.
of students already just by doing that. So what we're looking at doing is looking at, and we need it. Unfortunately, that's the way it is we need partners, whether it's corporate companies or, I hate to say donors and all that kind of stuff, but we need people to come alongside and be able to see the value and then sponsor. Another model we're looking at is saying, if you really develop the industry properly, you will look at education separately because education becomes the bedrock for developing the workforce that you need to grow the industry. So for example, if you have a drone company and your drone company provides aerial mapping services for mines, for example, it's your best interest to ensure that students who are in high school right now are learning about drones.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah, that's true.
So those are some of the people who we would be targeting to say, right, once the regulations, and the regulations are holding us back, once the regulations are implemented, you will see a sharp spike in people now setting up their drone companies. There are quite a few already there, but they're all kind of doing their thing underground. Okay? You'll see a sharp spike in that, right? Another thing we're doing, and we've started doing, is we've been in talks with Tel1. Tel1 has got a Center for Learning. Do you see what I'm saying? So we're trying to see how we can come alongside and say, you know what? The value for drones and telecoms is, for example, cell tower inspections. No longer do you need to send teams out, climb up the scaffolding, and to check your cell towers to make sure everything's there, and to do asset inspections and all that kind of stuff. Use a drone, do it in 20 minutes, get it done, right? And you get the data. Now you can assess it, with your teams back there. They assess the data, then they can plan which one are they going to repair first and all that kind of stuff without having to send manpower out there and spend a lot of time doing it. They can do it faster, more efficiently. Now, the value to Tel1 Center for Learning is if you added that as a course, even some sort of certificate or diploma level, where you're teaching students there who go there how to operate drones in the context of telecommunications and asset management. Do you see what I'm saying? Asset inspection. Then you are now feeding that side of things. Okay?
Yeah,
and now you're
essentially training them for the job you're going to give them. Yeah.
Exactly. You see, and that's the future. You see, and that's the future. In South Africa right now, we're learning from companies like Vodacom and that kind of thing, because they've started rolling out a drone program in monitoring their cell towers and that kind of thing. But they need a workforce. You see, they need to be able to go to a company or to have it internalized where people know how to do it. And you don't need to have your pilot license to be able to start doing things like that. Pilot license is an endorsement to say, right, you now fulfill these requirements at law. But the skill itself, getting a pilot license in whatever country doesn't teach you about how to use a drone in telecoms, how to use it in agriculture, how to use it in mining. You don't learn that. You just learn about the principles of flight, the law, how to communicate with other aircraft, etc. You see what I mean? You learn the basics. So education is so critical. It's so critical that we get in there and that we develop it so that the future of the drone industry, the future of the drone professional, regardless of whether he's a pilot, a data scientist, a repair and maintenance technician, a designer of drones, that drone professional has got the base at an early age.
Yeah. Time is running out. So
I actually wanted to ask about that, Rufaro. Please be our timekeeper. I haven't.
We're left with like 4 minutes. So we should be wrapping it up.
I've been talking too much.
No, I'm sure we're left with is it one question? I think one or two, and I think we can speed through them.
Yeah. So the one that was left was what are the roles of accelerators and incubators in drone education?
So accelerators, I'm yet to find an accelerator here in Zimbabwe that's doing anything in regards to drones. But I think if there were people who are looking at investing in that, it would be those kind of things where you connect the people who have the knowledge and understanding, right? So the drone experts, the professionals, okay? You create a platform that is not that, and this is with the job of the accelerators, okay? Build it around connecting the experts with the people who need to learn, either students or aspiring drone professionals. I know we're focusing on students a lot and we're talking about education, but there's people who don't have jobs. There's people who've gone to school, and will be encouraged to go to school and do book stuff, but they're very technical. You know what I mean? We need more of these technical skills to be encouraged. And drones provide a platform for you to express yourself in a technical way. You see what I mean? Even if you can be a data scientist within the drone space. You have to touch a drone in your whole life, but be a drone professional within the drone technology space as a data scientist. So the accelerators would need to then create the platform. And when say create a platform, that means they're basically going to fund the process where we're connecting drone professionals with the aspiring people who need the service. And it could be a situation where you do it as a challenge, where, for example, in Rwanda, right now, they're in about a week's time, they're having what's called the Lake Kivu Challenge, okay? Where people come forward and they bring the best minds and people with the best business ideas around drone technology from around the world in a competition. And the prize money is not even a lot. I mean, it's a lot, but it's not a lot. It's like, I think like $40,000 or something like that. Right? But companies from around the world are coming, right, to compete in this challenge. Okay, but you're thereby, creating this drive and want, okay, who's got the best ideas in regards to drone technology, whether it's drone deliveries or, emergency medical delivery service or whatever it is, or drone taxis. You've heard about, drone taxis. All these ideas are all there. But where is it? It's Rwanda. Rwanda has created a platform for that. They're saying come, they're making it easy for people to come there. And as always, Rwanda keeps pushing forward as being one of the most advanced countries. Yeah. Why can't we do that here? It's simple. We can do it here. We need the commitment. We need to be able to see, okay, there's value in this. This is how we can benefit humanity. Here's how we can benefit the environment. Here's how we can increase and improve efficiencies in regards to how business is done using technology such as drone technology.
All right.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Thanks. So we've covered quite a lot today. From the prospective professions you can take up to what's happening in the industry. It's been quite a lot. Thank you very much for being with us, Tawanda. And Farah, it was really nice talking to you as well. It's been a while since you've been on the podcast.
Yeah, I think I'll now just come back with guests here and there.
All right, cool. And then one last thing for your recording, so you can throw this in there. You can throw this edited and throw it in there. But I'm actually in the process of right now contributing towards a book about the drone profession. And the part I'm writing about and talking about is drones in education and the way we need to actually invest in education for the future of the drone profession. So that's actually my piece in the book. And the book will be coming out next month or two.